former ambassador to China, where yeah, opening with that Siga, I know, ND and Commander Pay also. So, the thoughts on the developments at the party event grounds at the sports stadium. No, what he witnessed. Now, the question I was asking you, if you can attempt that as well. Now, after the way forward, breaking the 8, and some of the things we witnessed in Commander. Ambassador, good morning, and thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. This is Amitia with a for you now.
Yo, I should phone social. Pacho, Nana Pembum to say.
Pacho, you are Namus as well.
You could come crack. Yo, any common menje reactions before and post the elections. What's been your reaction?
Pacho, reaction. Kind of saying said today elections in general.
Ambassador Pacho, video no. I'm saying also video we can't see you. We can only hear you. Wait me also camera na my would appreciate.
Pacho, my son Mohammed.
Okay, all right. I'm saying and let me be say. Prior to the elections, what your expectations were, how you felt things were going to be like in terms of the organization, in terms of how the voting was going to go, and then post that, the outcome that came. But let's focus on the initial. What were expectations in terms of organizations and then how the voting was going to happen?
I think, sir, the National Election Committee headed by Mr. Mac Manu did a wonderful job. I myself was on the committee, the National Election Committee. I think the vetting process, the planning, the logistics, everything. I mean, we'll be over Stadium Hall last Saturday via NPP Abaso. And I think that's what we expect of a party like NPP. I think that this, for the first time in a long time, the vetting process was very quiet. We didn't have any candidate or aspirant complain or refer to the arbitration committee. Obi Obaibia felt that they had a very fair and clean hearing. And I think the process started well. Now, on Saturday, the organization was to the expectation of all the aspirants were happy. This is the first time in a long time Ayaya election. The ones who won were very happy, and the ones who lost, no. I mean, losing an election is a very painful thing, but they were all satisfied. Nobody has complaints. Yes, see me, and I say, wake also. And I think the National Planning Committee and the Election Committee, headed by Mr. Mac Manu and Mr. Sesha Bankwa, deserve a lot of commendation. I mean, since the U election, I want to see will be a Catalina, or radio too, and I say. Bibi of course no many in the home will be a BBL tour because to move forward and to break the 8, you need unity of purpose, and I think that's exactly what happened on Saturday. Interesting.
Now you were there, you'd have heard either the grassroots and by proxy some of the top hierarchy members of the party. What were the issues generally, even before the elections, you felt that people were going to vote on?
Well, I think people were looking for a new sense of energy to energize the base of the party. And that was one key thing. People also were talking a lot about unity. And I think that was also important to people. So I think a lot of people put some of these things in mind. Obviously, there's going to be a new flag there. People also wanted Obi Obitimi Opolu, all the party together. I think people also were looking for fairness. Some of these are some of the things that I picked up on the ground. But generally, if you look at the people who were elected, some of the old executives were retained and new ones brought in. But if you look at the margin of victory, I mean, even between it was not, it was always close. I mean, with the exception of the chairmanship and women's organizer, all the other positions were highly and keenly contested.
Now, some people hold the view that the outcome of the 2020 elections would have played a key role as to how the delegates were going to vote. From the outcome, do you think it impacted our elections?
Well, I think so. I think definitely. I mean, 2020, having looked at the amount of work that was done from 2017 to 2020 now, it surprised a lot of people. I think that may have played a role why the General Secretary lost his position to Justin Kodia. But be as it may, I mean, at any point, the system throws up a new leader and people want a new sense of purpose. And I think that's exactly what happened. I mean, it gives these new executives a chance to reflect, a chance to look at what they can do better, because the expectations from the party members, from the grassroots, are quite high. And obviously, once or two more, you should listen and make sure that you meet the aspirations and the needs of the people that you've chosen to serve. So yeah, 2020 definitely played a role. But a lot of the old executives were retained. The women's organizer retained, Nasara was retained, Nana B moved from youth to national organizer. So Rita Sobaria was retained as second vice. So it's not like people were also totally dissatisfied with the work that the old team did. It was a balance.
Now, there was a huge issue which was trending on social media now a year about vote buying and monetization. Some candidates had alleged Sika may be echo. So, my colleagues are no more and so they saw it with their own eyes. Envelopes that were being given to people, delegates no more ever trouble. The issue about vote buying. As a stalwart to the party, how do you feel about vote buying, especially in such a contest?
They saw vote buying on Saturday at the stadium.
They saw envelopes being given to delegates.
Well, I mean, I can't comment
Mr.
on that because
had also made a similar allegation to the effect the opponent and were contesting were massacre.
I can't comment on that because I was there. I was on the field throughout the day. I was there at 6:30 in the morning, and I was one of the last people to leave the stadium around 5:30 a.m. on Sunday. I wouldn't say it didn't happen, but I did not see it. I didn't see it because it was something that the election committee, chaired by Mr. Mac Manu, had warned all the candidates that nothing like that should take place at the stadium. The program started a bit late, and we were told that delegates were moved to Sika. So we were surprised. So a team led by Mr. Sachabankwa and some police people and party stars were sent to the hostels, baby Anomodame, to bring them, and they all came. That one there, I cannot talk about it. However, on the issue of vote buying, it's something that is worrying to everybody, not unique to the NPP. It's in all our parties, and it's something that we have to find a way to stamp out. However, having said that, I have had the privilege of living in several countries. I mean, my last country was China. When it comes to these elections, people want to influence people to vote for them. And people use words, they use persuasion, and in our case, in addition to the persuasion and the words, money has become part of it. We need to find a way to stamp it out, and it's something that I know that we reflected on it a lot during our deliberations. So I'll take this into consideration. We'll bring it up during our review meeting and hopefully find a way so that the next time we have these elections, it will be stamped out or minimized. But again, it's this issue of people feeling that when they vote people into power, until the next cycle of voting. So all these things need to be looked at so that we can stamp it, because monetization of our democracy is not good for anybody.
Now, the latter point you made about monetization of our democracy, I remember a report that CDD released, I think that was last year or so, as to why, as a nation, we need to have a conversation about the amount of money we spend on political activities. Should we be having a national conversation about Sika, for instance, the medical year? I wouldn't know how much was spent for the organization of the Ehu Saturday, no? But should we have a general conversation about how much we spend for political activities?
I think it will be in order. I mean, democracy is not, it's a continuum, it's a life thing. Therefore, I mean, we've gone since 1992 to 2022. Maybe we can all take a step back and evaluate the processes, evaluate the challenges, evaluate the strengths, evaluate the weaknesses, and see what we can do better. And the NSS who are touching money, betting me a year free, because we also have to take note that democracy itself is not a cheap process. The whole political process is not a cheap process. If you look at the US, if you look at the UK, you look at some of these countries, the amount of resources that are spent. However, I think it's time for us to take stock, to look at what CDD is saying. We make it better for the enrichment of all. But I feel sometimes when people lose, they make these allegations, which sometimes are unfortunate, because I saw people who won on Saturday who didn't have money. And I asked one of the delegates, and he said to me that when this particular person came to us, we were very, very touched by his vision. I mean, somebody became true to, I think, third vice chairman. He wasn't somebody who had a lot of money. So sometimes too, people may say things because they have lost. But I agree that we have to look at the processes, and like anything else, can we do it better? Yes, I agree with that.
My final question has to do with some new leaders to represent the party. What would be the 3 key things you'd want them to touch on immediately as new executives of the party?
I think the first thing they have to do is to pull together. I mean, that was the theme of the conference. We need to pull together. And I would urge them to maybe have a retreat, both old and new executives, to learn from their predecessors what went right, what went wrong. Because mostly, when we come into new positions, people come with their own ideas and they want to start from ground zero. I don't think it's necessary. I think the outgoing executives, Chairman Blay, former General Secretary John Boydu, they all have very, very good experiences. They've worked through the political system for the last 40 years or more, especially in the Fourth Republic. These people have been there, so they've learned a lot, so they can learn from them. I think that's one. The second one is for them all to sit as a group, to have a very clear vision, and set very clear objectives as to how they are going to take the party forward beyond 2024. How do we win the election? Invariably, when people come into office, there isn't that pulling together. And I think it's important that Chairman Stephen Tim and General Secretary and Justin Kodia outline a very, very clear vision. How is the party going to raise resources? How is the party going to manage the flag bearership race in front of us? And beyond elections, I think parties can do more. I mean, one of the things I would like to see is a party like NPP. If you look at our human resource pool, how many doctors do we want to train in the next 10 years? How many engineers? Because winning the election is fine, but we also need a human resource. So I think that's the second one. And the third one is also to be very clear about how the party can help government. They said in Penny coming. A party in a war bank. And see in a war bank, they are a amount for be brief. We said there are economic challenges. And Tisania party needs to be to me a buy a juma. Because baby and you have party people. A Caribbean and you have party people. How do we use these resources? I think say yeah you soon ye into do election time it me acquire to a Caribbean. But then after elections it ends there. These resources now you baby how do they plan to utilize it to the benefit of the government? So for me these are the three objectives here. Maka company for them no more. I didn't come on be say this is how I would like to see them start. So that we any do much, we are all very, very clear about their purpose for the next 2 years and for the next and also to election 2024.
On the first point you made about unity and pulling everybody on board, we saw some 15 regional party, chairman of the party. One would declare almost support for John Boadu. Post the election, seeing say Onipa no more so be winning, when winning, how easy would it be to bring about that unity, knowing say even the former chairman of the party had also shown his support for Mr. John Boadu?
Which former chair? Who can regional chairman?
Yes.
Well, I mean, for instance, yesterday I was at the function at East Legon, at the Underbridge. Justin Kodia, General Secretary, was there, and he was warmly introduced by his regional chairman, Chairman Wuntumi. I mean, there was a lot of love, there was a lot of unity, there was a lot of bonding at this event, and not only Justin was there, there were a lot of other winners and even people who ran and lost their elections. I mean, once the election is over, it's over. We move on. And I think that was what was exhibited yesterday at this event that Wuntumi put together for all the aspirants. In fact, it was intended to be for Ashanti Regional Caucus in Accra, but we realized that everybody was there and it was very, very nice. So I can say just General Secretary Justin also spoke that once we finish the election, we should move on. I mean, yes, Wuntumi did not support him, but he's his regional chairman and they have to work together. He's the General Secretary. He needs the regional chairman to implement his vision and his objectives. So everybody has moved on. I think once the election results were announced, especially when people feel that they've been fairly treated. That's what I say. Problems come when people feel that they have not been fairly treated. But this is one election where all the aspirants, they were winning, they were winning, they were fairly treated. Their concerns were taken on board. I mean, look, when people raise issues about proxy votes, they were taken out. I mean, they were taken out and say, okay, and to hear about the any moment to be almost also did it. I think after Saturday, once Sunday around 4:50 as a 4:30 a.m. electoral commission officers declared the results. Now people accepted and move on. And from then we all work as one elephant family, the NPP. And you need to wage and then the
Yo, you better say Ambassador Boateng is on the Ujimbe now needing come our happy morning show. So,
Miss Meda Masi Bebre.
Yo,
bye bye.
Yes, you channel pay Ambassador Boateng where a cigar, one more penny now, that one na AD and come Udia Cotton about the NPP party, Emun Sensem or catcher say a committee almost set up or organize a Jumedian who last Saturday no. One work can be at one more organization.